out, and people will respond to that.
That's great. So let's talk a little bit. Let's imagine that there's a project manager listening to this that's interested in product, moving over to product. So let's say I'm a project manager. I'm interested in moving over to the product manager role. I'm a whip cracker. I can get stuff done. I can make sure that every ticket is hit. I can pay attention to all the details. I love spreadsheets. I have dreams about moving things across the board in Jira.
Right.
But now I'm ready for the new challenge. I'm ready to move over to the product team. I want to help define what the future of the product looks like. I feel like I would be very valuable in that role. What's some of the advice, since you've made that transition, would you give that project manager?
The thing that was most valuable for me was thinking hard about what aspects of this, what are the best moments that I've had in my career in the past 6 months, and what is consistent about those, right? Like what are the things that brought me the most joy and satisfaction, and that I think about as the wins. Is it that the site went live on time and on budget? I personally felt no better knowing that it was like I had hit a date exactly. Like what I cared about was more, qualitative than that. It was like, how are we feeling about it? What is the impact for the people? What are we, what am I seeing that I can hold on to longer term? The site going live itself was more stressful for me than it was exciting, and that was a good call for me to say I'm not doing exactly the right thing. I like a lot of aspects of this, but I don't like other ones. Think about that, and think about how that might change in the future. If what makes you happy at the end of the day is knowing that you held the team to the plan you guys made 2 weeks ago, and that you're exactly on track, and you can measure it and quantify it and all of that. That's not really a huge part of at least my flavor of product ownership and product management. I'm much more thinking about, like, I'm kind of a sprint ahead, or 2 sprints, or sometimes 3 sprints ahead, thinking about what are we going to get done? What are the best priorities? What's the best way for us to spend the time that we have? And then supporting the team with specific solutions for, okay, what do we do in this case? How do we solve this? Where's the answer for this thing, right? And I have to trust someone else to crack the whip. I have to trust someone else to be the one that delivers on what we promise, or hit our deadlines or whatever. If you can't let go of that stuff, that you have to understand that that's a very different mindset you have to be in to do this thing. And are you just good at that? If that's where your talents lie, but you hate it, then great. But if that's the thing that you love doing, then keep doing that. like don't be so hungry for the next step that you don't realize that you're in a good spot.
I'm a project manager looking for some ideas on leadership, whether it not be a book or a TV show or a movie, whatever the case may be. I'm looking for some inspiration. What's some books or podcasts or even any other kind of media that you consume that has been impactful to you?
I'm someone who was always chasing being a better people manager. I think that's a thing, that's a goal that we never reach the pinnacle of, right? We always can improve in that, no matter how experienced you are. My wife sends me 3 times a week articles from askamanager.com, which is wonderful, which is a advice column where people say, hey, here's the situation, what should I do? And it's a super experienced manager helping kind of navigate the situation. It's awesome, and is a really good job of kind of framing, pulling you out of like what your specific job context is into a more objective, here's the actual stakes of this thing, and thinking that way about it, which has helped me a lot to kind of think about, when I'm dealing with a situation where it's tricky, let go of all the rest of the stuff that I know is part of that and focus instead on what is objectively true, and not just the history of the situation. The book, Radical Candor, is one that I love. Again, it's talking about how you work as a team and how you work as a manager. The super short version of it is just be honest with people in a way that shows that you care about them.
Project managers love tools. They love to have tools. They love to try different things. What's going to help me do my Monte Carlo simulation way better than I did it before? What are some of the things maybe that has helped you from your project management days into your product management role that you found really successful in? What are some of those tools you found success with in that transition from project to product?
I love Jira. There are people who will say that I'm wrong for saying that, or I should qualify that more. But there is a lot. So much of my job is successful because of Jira. There's a lot wrong with it. There's a lot that could be better about it. But especially running, there's so many different. If you put in the effort to customize it in the right way, set up for your team, it can really help, especially with even nice workflow and things, really to get things going. So I use that as the default way to basically, if we're doing something as a Jira ticket for it, we figure out we put it in the right workflow. If there's a weird use case, I will change the workflow to figure that out to kind of accommodate those things. As a more interesting answer than that, I had a really good experience with Aha. I think you showed me Aha actually back in the day as a product management tool. It's really well designed. It's clearly made by people who are experienced in what it takes to build a product. There's a lot of nice little nuance in those features that allows you to build a roadmap that it incorporates a lot of different ideas. I think one of their key selling points is that you can kind of set up these targets and goals, and here's our vision for what we want this product to be, and then score each item on the roadmap against those, and even created your own little algorithm for how we should weight those. So item number 3 is more important than number 2, so that gets double the points or whatever. So you can objectively say to your stakeholders, according to our own scores, this is the most important thing for us to do in order to accomplish our goals based on whatever our own metrics are. It's a dead simple tool that works really well in terms of not only managing your work, but also communicating it out to the audience too. There's a lot of really nice features in terms of creating a client-friendly roadmap as well. That you can kind of hide the details you don't want them to see. That's the work in progress stuff, or zoom out a level for them. On a more personal level, cool. Like I will never not have Trello open. As much as I like things with a defined workflow, and I like things where I can cross it off a little easier than what Trello lets me do, it's just so easy to instantly have a list and instantly have columns, and it gets so out of the way. It is the opposite of Jira in that way, that it takes no effort to get it set up. But it is the virtual equivalent of Post-it notes on a whiteboard that is so invaluable. Just to we now have a list, and I can move it around, and I can change it, and I can move things around, whatever. Like having Trello as a resource is something that I definitely couldn't do without.
What would you say is probably the best piece of advice you've gotten?
I had a mentor once who made a point when I spoke with him. I'm new, I'm learning, I'm figuring things out in the role. And he would close his laptop, turn around, and look me in the eye, and talk to me for as long as I had questions. I mentioned that to him later after I was kind of, I had leveled up and I was kind of in his sort of a role and mentor others, and he was like, that's just important. Like showing that I am giving you full attention when you need help goes so far in terms of actually satisfying the concern the person has. Like if you are out of your chair having a face-to-face conversation, especially if it's a developer who doesn't like human interaction, if they're concerned about something enough to walk up to your desk and ask you for help, being able to just give them your sole focus and to say, tell me what you need to feel better about this thing. Let's talk it through. I will talk to these person. What do you need?
My father used to always say, people are trying so hard to be understood, they forget to be understanding. So I understand where you're coming from.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, and don't worry about looking dumb, right? Like, it's easy to, in the technology space, want to be the smartest one in the room and want to make sure that everyone gets why your point is so good and why you're so, like, that doesn't matter. Like, who cares? People will see you're smart through your actions. You don't have to convince them in every conversation.
Yeah. Okay, so and I'm going to ask you. So the final question I want to ask. You've worked for a number of different organizations, a number of different leaders. In your experience, what have you found to be the most important characteristic of a leader?
Being able to have vision that you can bring to the team and share with them, but also having the ability to connect at a personal level at the same time too. A true leader for me is someone who's able to do both, to set a goals for the team but not forget the team in the process, to bring them along in that way or in their approach. So I embody that vision in the way that I help you with this thing. When I give you that personal attention, the things that we're talking about are specifically tied back to where I think we need to go as a team or as a company or whatever. That's very, very rare to have those two things come together. If you're not a visionary, you're going to be standing in the same place. If you can't convince people to follow you, you're going to be on your own going on that path.
Thanks, Adam, for that. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed our conversation about moving from project manager to product management. If people wanted to continue the discussion with you, where's a good place to find you?
Bother me on Twitter. I'm at Adam DeMarie, DeMarie, on Twitter. I don't tweet much, but I'm on Twitter all the time, so I will definitely see it if you want to chat with me that way.
That's great. Well, thanks again for coming on the show, Adam. I thought it was a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kurt.
And there you have it. I want to thank Adam for joining me to talk about how to successfully move from a project manager to a product manager. And now I want to talk about something I've got in the works that I hope will be coming up soon. Have you ever watched movies like Apollo 13? Do you remember that scene where they have to figure out how to take a square filter and fit it into a round hole?
Okay, people, listen up. People upstairs handed us this one, and we gotta come through. We gotta find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that. Let's get it organized.
Okay, let's build a filter.
Better get some coffee going, too.
Have you ever watched a scene like that and thought to yourself, that's just like my job? Of course, there's amazing movies like Office Space that do an excellent job of showing what it's like to work in a dysfunctional atmosphere. But what about all those glorious examples that you quote during work? Like quotes from Aliens or Armageddon or The Devil Wears Prada. I'll be inviting people on the show to talk about how they've referenced these movies at work. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I really hope you join and listen. If you have any ideas on movies you feel that would be great examples, please reach out to me on either facebook.com/schmittlist or find me on Twitter at KRTS or find me on LinkedIn. Do me a favor and tell your friends and colleagues about the show. Be sure to leave a review and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic week.